Hello everybody, this is Fly Little Bears. My name is Nairi. I have two adopted sibling boys who are 12 and 13, and we were foster carers for them for a number of years before we adopted them. If you're interested in fostering adoption or childhood trauma, please subscribe. Today is a more chatty family update video. Occasionally I put them on the channel, but there's plenty of other videos that are more short tips and advice or deeper information about attachment, therapeutic parenting. It's all on there. So today though, it's a family update, and so it's more informal. We have been away on holiday and I wanted to tell you about our experiences. I wanted to say what was good about it, what was bad about it, and hopefully if you're an adopter or foster carer, then it might be insightful as to holiday experiences. And I think as well that we've learned a lot over the years. We've done a lot of holidays with foster children and adopted children, and so I hope as well that you will find what I say very informative. So we took away our boys who, as I say, are 12 and 13. I think I said that anyway, 12 and 13, and so they're pre-teen or just about edging on to teenage. It's fair to say that developmentally they're not that age, so we have a lot of challenges and a lot of issues with them. We've had a lot of assessments done for them, and we definitely have a diagnosis for childhood development trauma for one of them. We have a diagnosis for severe speech and language delay for the other one. So you know, it's challenging, and going away on holiday has always been challenging for them because they get very anxious, particularly one of them, but both of them get very anxious, and they want to know before we get there everything that's going to happen. Very hard to mitigate that. I find generally speaking what happens is the behaviour goes a little bit awry before we go, and the repetitive questioning starts happening, and you can't always tell a child, can you, everything that's going to happen when you're on holiday, because you don't actually know yourself. So over the years we've tried lots of holidays, and some holidays have been more for us and some have been more for them. Some have also included our adult children because we have 5 birth adult children, so sometimes we've taken some of those with us as well. Now in the early days the boys found it hard to adapt to us having our own birth children, adult birth children, really for anything, including family occasions. That would be difficult because the focus wasn't on them, and the conversation being more adult orientated, not, I don't mean adult as in rude, I just mean, you know, for adults, then the conversation is not necessarily for them, so sometimes they would get frustrated with that. So this holiday was planned specifically to be just for them. It was planned based on all of our previous experiences of what not to do, and it was planned to be almost like a really good bonding and attachment time for my husband and I to be with them as well, you know, pure time, which is hard. That can be really hard in itself. So we booked a caravan, and the first decision we made, even though of course this is post-COVID, so we've made a decision not to go abroad, but that's probably more around COVID and waiting times, but we have done abroad with them and it was okay, but there were issues around lots of things going abroad. Obvious things in a way, like what you're going to eat is going to be different. You've got the plane journey, which they weren't too bad with, but it still causes another level of anxiety. And then of course if things don't go brilliantly, you're further away. So our choice this time was to keep it simple. Okay, so we didn't go any further than, I think it was 2.5–3 hours away from where we live. We live in a really nice part of the country, we're really lucky, but a holiday is a holiday, so we chose 2 to 3 hours away. We chose a caravan, which could have been a disaster, but the last time we took them on a holiday to a caravan site, they coped really well with it. We may have found it tougher because it's such a close proximity, but first thing I want to say is they love that. The closer they are to us and to each other, the better they cope. Bizarre, I know, but I think this is all down to their childhood trauma and their trust and wanting to have us nearby. And strangely, even though at home they have separate bedrooms at home, they annoy each other to the hilt at home, they're really different. On holiday, they're in the tiniest of little rooms with the tiniest little beds right next to each other. They can barely move in these beds and they can barely move in the room, and they love it. Yes, who would know? They love it. And the older one, who has a lot of bedwetting issues, he didn't wet the bed once. So they love it. The closer the better. So that might be a useful tip for you. It might not, I don't know. I guess depending on whether you have siblings or not. Of course we do. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we decided to do is we wanted the break of not cooking in the caravan because we knew it was going to be hot, and I didn't really want to cook in a caravan. No, I didn't. But we decided to get all the breakfast and all the lunch and to buy that in a supermarket nearby and get it into the house. They love that because they know what they're going to be having for breakfast. They can see all the food coming in, and because my boys suffered, you know, severe neglect before they came to us as foster children, then seeing that the food is going to be there for the week, and they know, seeing the food is going to be there for the week, they know it's going to be there for the week, anxiety levels drop because breakfast is quite an important meal for them. Things like snack lunches and things, which is what you would referred to as more snacky food, is important to them. And then obviously all we needed to worry about was what we were going to do for our dinner times, and we could tell them that every day. So we would go out for a trip, go to the beach, let them go to the pool, and then we could say this is what we're going to do for dinner, and that again reduced the anxiety levels. So one of the more negative things about it perhaps is that because they love swimming and they are resilient good swimmers, that's one thing that we were like really keen to make sure they could do. I think sometimes they probably push themselves a little bit too much physically because they're not the strongest of boys. So my younger son came back, and the day before we came back he was quite poorly. He'd gone down with what I thought was hay fever, but it turned into be quite a nasty cold, and actually at one point I thought it was COVID because he had a temperature. So he was tested and he didn't have COVID, but I feel like he had really pushed himself by going in and out of everywhere and you know what I mean, running around everywhere. So perhaps that was a bit of a negative, but because the site had a decent indoor and a decent outdoor pool, they had that choice. So if we felt like we'd done a lot the day before, then we could just kind of stay around and let them swim. And I know they're older, so obviously we can allow them to go off and swim because they're really competent swimmers and they're nearly, you know, they're teenagers. But again, it's something to think about, isn't it? Is what do you have nearby? So if you've got younger children, do you want to be going out on long day trips every day? It may be that you do because you've got plans to see XYZ in the area, but for them, and this is what we have found with the boys, so when we went to France there was outdoor pools and similar facilities to what we had here, but you know what, I don't think they really cared where they were. So they liked coming back and saying we've been to France, we've been to another country, to tell their friends, but the reaction is the same as the fact that we went 3 hours away because the pools were good. And so their reaction is the pools are amazing, and it doesn't matter whether it was 3 hours away or we went all the way over to France, I don't think. So yeah, okay, a bit more boring for us, but when we're in France we couldn't go that far because it was too hot. So I guess we gave them the experience of eating different things. We gave them experience of a different language and a different country and flying. So all of that is tick, tick, tick. But actually the enjoyment of the holiday, they enjoyed this one probably more because the stress levels were probably less. So that's the thing. What do your children like doing mostly? And therefore, where is a good plan? Like, and how can you reduce the anxiety levels if you've got children that really do experience a lot of childhood trauma? How can you reduce those anxiety levels so that the holiday doesn't become just a chore for you? We've done some holidays that have been disasters, We've done holidays with foster children before that have been disasters, and we've actually done some holidays with the boys that have been disastrous as well. I can remember one where perhaps we were a little bit naive. They were sleeping in the same bedroom. They seemed really out of sorts and restless. I don't think they were quite ready for a holiday, even though we'd had them for quite a few years. They were very, very anxious about this holiday. It wasn't actually that far away, but they seem to be, what happens is they turn in on each other when they're really anxious, and they kind of raise each other's anxiety levels. They kind of like have that effect on each other. Because of that, they start hurting each other, or they start goading each other into doing ridiculous things. So this is a story that happened on one of the holidays where I felt that, I think as well, we might have had a foster child with us at the same time. I can't remember, but I know they were more anxious and more restless, and they were a lot younger anyway. What happened is my elder son swallowed a pound coin. Yes, how you can do that I don't know, but I think he was probably encouraged to do that by the younger one, which is no surprise. And we had to go to the hospital, and he had to have a metal detector put over him, and yeah, there it was in his stomach. So that was, so we had to get him to a hospital for that, so you know what I mean. So you do have to really think through what is going to work for you as a family. A holiday is only a holiday if you mitigate some of the more anxious, kind of worrying things that adopted and foster children can do sometimes. The other lovely things about this holiday were they bonded really well. So I've got lots of photos. You'll probably see some on my community tab page actually, where they're sat together looking at a view. When they're not looking, I took some photos of them in the water. You can't see their faces because I can never put their faces on the channel, not yet anyway. When they're in the sea is vast, and they're stood right next to each other, literally like this, like glue, enjoying each other's company and staying, yes, of course that's partly anxiety at people around, but being next to each other in the sea when they could have been miles apart. They bonded really, really well. They increase their independence because they're able to on site. We let them go up to the little mini arcades with the 2p machines and go up to the shop to get some, you know, snacks and stuff, so they increase their independence. And there were a couple of nights where they did play with other children in the kind of entertainment area, but honestly that got a bit stressful near the end because the little one got very fixated about that, so that didn't go as brilliantly. But yeah, they had a great time. And so my advice to you would be, really think it through. Think about what you, opportunities to take stuff with you that help them, opportunities to mitigate travel, opportunities to mitigate anxiety, all of the above. And you know, if you haven't had a holiday yet, maybe you can't have one this year, maybe plan just a short trip. You know, don't go for the whole week. Plan a weekend or something away if you can afford it, and actually, you know, try a few things out with your children. I mean, I think it's important that you have all of the basics with you. You have a decent first aid kit. We did not take Calpol with us, and we should have, because actually, yes, we could have gone off to the shop to get it, but one night, the last night my son was running a temperature, and it would have been really handy to have had Calpol. So have all the basic first aid with you, have all the basic kind of mopping up, cleaning up, just in case your child's ill, or you know, they have a chocolate bar and they wear it and you need to get, you know, have everything with you, because life is so much sweeter when you can just get hold of it. And I think if you are going to go abroad, you've just got to be really sure that you can get medical care really well, and that, you know, emergencies or things that happen can be covered. Because again, I know for fostering there would be rules around that, but for adoption, if you've adopted, then there wouldn't be. But I think you need to kind of think those things through as well. So I hope that helps you. It is a chatty one. I realise it's not as informative as a lot of my other videos, but occasionally those of you who follow me and have been following me for a longer time do enjoy just hearing about my family rather than me giving tips and advice on different subjects. So thank you for watching Fly Little Birds, and I'll see you on my next video. Thank you.